Welcome to Chewbacca. So today we're going to be discovering a story in which Chewbacca is basically stranded on a planet and has to help a bunch of people, showing us that Chewbacca is actually a much bigger hero than we already thought that he was. Our story begins on the planet Eldium 4, as the gangster Jom tells Arax that he's sorry, but he isn't the bad guy here. Him and his daughter took his financial services on credit and then failed to pay on time. Arax's daughter Zaro shouts that he's nothing but a crook. He changed the deal so that nobody on the planet could pay him. Arax tries to calm Zaro down, but Jerome tells them not to worry. He has a plan for them to work off their debt down in the Eldium Beetle Caverns. A few days later in the caverns, Zaro yells that this is ridiculous. They've been down here for days. How much do they really owe Jom? And Arax says that Jom won't be letting anyone go. The chemicals in the larva here are just too valuable. But at least one of them will be leaving today. Arax stops the cart of larva and tells Zaro to get in. When she gets topside, run and never look back. The guards won't notice until it's too late. At first, Zaro says that she can't leave without him, but as she gets outside, she waits for the guards to pass, and she steals a speeder to get away. On the outskirts of Zaro City lies the Wookiee, Chewbacca, enjoying the finer moments in his life, taking a nap in a flower field. Chewie's starship has crash-landed on this planet, but before getting to work to fix it, he figured that he would get a little rest. But the Wookiee's nap is interrupted when his ship suddenly begins to beep and the engine backfires and stalls out. After taking a look inside, Chewie finds that the flight stabilizer has taken some damage when he, landed, and the only way to fix it would be to replace it. Later, back in the city, Zaro tries to sell Jorum's stolen speeder to a merchant who tells her that he ain't buying that thing, it belongs to Jorum. Zaro tries to reason with him, but the merchant says that he already radioed Jorum that someone was trying to sell some of his things, and he seemed way more interested in getting the person back than the bike. Zaro then asks, "Why would you do that?" And as she turns to run, the merchant shouts, telling her to wait. As he starts to chase after her, he's grabbed by Chewie, and the merchant tells him, "I've already told you once before, it's 100 credits and that's the final price. You won't find a flight stabilizer in such a good condition anywhere." Chewie checks one of his bags and he starts to hand over the credits, and just as the merchant looks at them, he says that this really isn't enough. Chewie begins to shout, and the merchant tells him, "Look, please roar somewhere else. Return when you have the credits." So Chewie goes back and gets some quick credits the only way that he knows how, and that's gambling. While at the dealer's table, Chewie notices Zaro running through and Jorum's men shortly after. Chewie returns to his table where he brought his meal, and as he begins to eat, Jorum's right-hand man, Tyvak, stops at his table. Tyvak begins to speak, but when Chewie looks back up at him, he stops and says, "Never mind." Once Tyvak leaves, Zaro pops up from under the table, stating, "Thank you so much for hiding me. And you shed a lot. It's kind of gross." A short while later, Zaro follows Chewie, telling him that it is so cool that he just won his money playing sabacc. Her old man used to play, but he wasn't any good. Chewie roars and waves goodbye. But Zaro stops him, stating that she's in a bit of a situation and could use some help. She needs someone who looks scary. Chewie continues to walk back towards his ship, and Zaro jumps on his back, telling him that she's going to need him to head back. Jorum's camp is in the other direction. Chewie roars, and Zaro asks, "Do you have a translator or a name? Because I can't understand a word that you're saying." After a short walk, Zaro sees Chewie's ship and says, "So before you go, you're gonna help me, right?" Chewie points to himself, and then he points to the sky, roaring again. A little while later, as Chewie works on his ship, Zaro pokes around, explaining that she needs someone who's big and strong to scare Jorum. If not, it means that he loves the Empire. Chewie shouts in disagreement. But Zaro says, "Well, that's who's going to win if you don't help me. What you have in the box can surely wait one more day to be delivered, can't it?" Chewie begins to hold his ears, yelling, and Zaro tells him, "Look, nobody cares that a poison-breathing gross slug named Jorum has enslaved our entire planet. Do you know what it's like to be a slave?" Chewie pauses and he begins to shake his head, roaring. As Zaro says, "Fine, fine," Chewie reaches for his crossbow, and Zaro jumps on his back, shouting, "I knew you'd help!" The next morning, Zaro leads Chewie to the mining facility entrance and says that he's going to sneak into the vents. That way, you won't risk getting in a fight. Chewie looks down at the small vent and then looks back at Zaro, shaking his head and roaring. She tells him that she knows it's going to be a tight fit, but it's a much easier job than hers. She's got to get caught. A few moments later, Zaro gets herself caught by Jorum's men, and Jorum says that they'll just put her back down below, double her shifts and half her rations. That'll teach her. Once she's put back below, she pulls out a small transmitter from her pocket, stating, "Good, the signal's still strong here." Arax runs up to her asking what is she doing, and she tells him that she came back to rescue everyone. Don't worry about it, she's got a friend on the outside. Back topside, Chewie's watching the scanner to see her position, and once it finally stops moving, he sighs, looking down at the ventilation shaft. Down below, Arax pleads with Jorum, asking him not to hurt his daughter, and Jorum tells him not to worry. Soon, our dealings with you will be over. Unfortunately, though, I can't just let you walk out of here. You'll all soon be replaced by droids, and the Empire will find new opportunities for you. One of the men says that he doesn't understand, and Arax tells him that Joram is planning on selling all of the slaves to the Empire. The man grabs a shovel and lunges at him, and Joram takes out his blaster, shooting the man, stating, "I knew we would have some labor problems sooner or later." All of the miners begin to run away, and as they get cornered, Zaro sees Chewbacca's head poke out of one of the vents. She watches and laughs as Chewie jumps down, beating all the guards up, and then quickly ducks as one of the guards is thrown in her direction. Chewie points his crossbow at the guards, roaring, and Zaro says that they may want to do what he says. He starts to leave, and she tells him to wait, and then she makes the motion of a bomb exploding in her hand, stating, "Ba-boom!" He starts to look around and spots a dead power droid and has an idea. He hands the crossbow over to her and starts making a makeshift electrical staff with a pipe and wires when suddenly there's a rumble. A defense droid crashes through the wall, shouting that this is an unapproved work stoppage. "Return to work! Return to—" Chewie takes the pipe, hits the droid, and then falls over, stating, "Catastrophic damage, thank the maker." Chewie continues leading the group out, shorting out all of the defense droids that they come across when one of the guards laughs, stating that it looked like someone brought a dead power droid to a blaster fight. As Chewie takes the power droid, he bashes it over the guard's head, and the guard continues to move out as Chewie walks outside, and Joram says, "It's a real shame, we're gonna need an entire new workforce." Chewie looks at the cards next to him and sees the larva stacked up. But before he can do anything, Tyvak fires a blaster shot into the cart, causing a massive explosion. As Joram and Tyvak walk back to their ship, Tyvak says that it's a tough loss, and Joram tells him, "Yeah, we just lost our entire workforce. But the only thing that I'm really worried about is that somehow that Wookiee survived." Underneath the rubble, Chewie holds up a support beam, keeping the cave from falling in, while Zaro begins putting out the fire that started on his leg. Once Chewie's leg is put out, Zaro and Arax quickly prop up a pipe to hold the support in place, allowing Chewie to get out. As everyone turns to walk back, Arax stops and says, "Wait, if the power grid is knocked out, the beetles are free to return to the caverns." Chewie roars in question, and Zaro explains that the larva will eventually turn into poisonous beetles. He looks around and sees that some of the beetles are beginning to crawl around, and Arax says that as long as they don't step on them, they won't attack. Zaro then looks back at the swarm of beetles, stating that she's pretty sure they don't care anymore. Everyone begins to run, and as Chewie stops and fires a crossbow on one of the support beams, he causes a cave-in. As everyone returns to the main area, the miners begin to work on plans on how they can dig their way out, and as they talk, Chewie notices light coming in the cavern, and he begins to roar. Zoro tells him that it's a sinkhole. It's dangerous to do anything, and Arax says, "Yeah, plus they really can't climb vertically." Chewie takes the rope, roaring, and Zaro says fine, they'll try it the Wookiee's way. The both of them help Chewie up, and he begins to climb up the sinkhole until he finds roots from a tree. He tries to prop himself up, and as he wedges the shovel in, it snaps. He roars, hitting the roots with the broken part of the shovel until he hears a loud cracking noise. He stops for a second as the dirt begins to crumble away, and soon the tree that he grabbed onto starts to tip over. Once the tree lands, Chewie looks around and sees the root has actually pulled him out of the hole. Zaro shouts, asking if everything's gonna be okay up there, and a few seconds later, he lowers the rope to pull everyone up. As Arax is pulled up, he says that he was the last one. Right now, they need to hurry and find a place to hide before the Empire arrives for Joram's shipment. Zaro yells, stating that there's no way they can stop now. If they don't stop Joram, they'll lose everything. Arax sighs, stating that there's no way he can stop her. Just promise that they won't go anywhere near the spaceport. A few moments later, at the spaceport, Zaro tells the droid I-7 that they've come here to see their pal Savox. The droid tells her that she doesn't have any friends here, but not listening, Zaro walks inside of the workshop, and a man shouts that she shouldn't have come here. Zaro says that it's fine, she's alone, and Savox says, "No, there's a Wookiee outside!" Chewie walks in, and Zaro tells him, "Meet Savox." She does errands for him from time to time. His body rejects implants, so his eyes are rotting away. He found a way to splice his vision into a protocol droid. He's also prepared for when the Empire comes, or Rebellion, whoever comes, he's prepared. Chewie picks up one of the broken droids and begins to roar. And Zaro tells him that she's not sure what he's planning to do with that, but Joram won't know what hit him. Meanwhile, over at the club, Joram and Tyvak sit with some of the girls when two guards throw a man stating that one of their workers was found around their home. The man shouts that this place was his home first. They took it. Joram leans down asking how is it that he managed to escape, and the man says that it was the Wookiee. The Wookiee freed everyone. Joram takes his hose from his mask and he lets the gas out on the man, and suddenly the man's face begins to rot away. Up in space, Commander Kai receives a transmission and he tells Joram that they're still processing the sample that they were given. Joram says, "Yeah, about that. I need some muscle quick. There might be some rebellious attitudes down here." Kai tells him that he really hopes that their streets are wide enough to accommodate Imperial scout walkers. And there you have it, the first part of the Chewbacca Saves the Day storyline. That's pretty much what I'm covering it. But as usual with our Star Wars specials that we are bringing to you guys, my buddy over at Star Wars Explained is going to fill you in on some of the legend stuff that came out of it. I'm pretty sure that this one might still be in canon, but hey, I'm not the expert on that. Star Wars Explained is. So he's going to tell you guys how Chewie and Han originally met.
Thanks, Benny. So the Chewbacca comic touches on Chewie's time as a Wookiee slave. New canon Star Wars stories have also mentioned his enslavement and his rescue by Han Solo. We don't know exactly how that went down in canon yet, but we'll almost certainly see it in the upcoming Solo film. However, some old Star Wars Legends comics did tell that story. Coincidentally, the Dark Horse series was also called Chewbacca. In it, he was captured by Trandoshan slavers. He led a revolt on the slave ship, and his successes led him to continue freeing other Wookiee slaves as often as he could. He was eventually captured by an Imperial TIE fighter squadron led by Lieutenant Han Solo. Chewie was enslaved, and the Empire took pleasure in his mistreatment after all the trouble he had caused. Solo decided he couldn't stand idly by and stunned his commander to save Chewbacca from being whipped to death. They escaped and were allies for decades to come. I believe the new movie will tell us a different version of the story, but for now, the Legends comic is what we've got. If you want to dive into that story a little more, I have a video about it on my channel.
And there you have it, our first half of our Chewbacca video. Now, we'll be completing this one next Sunday. I hope you guys enjoyed. Click Star Wars Explained channel down below if you want to get more from him. And don't forget, you can check out our entire Star Wars playlist to find out about the new canon that has been going on. I'll see you next time right here at Comicstorian, guys.